more, it will live for another century, I think.
I took my kids who are in their 20s to see Lawrence of Arabia at Coolidge Corner. And, I mean, for me, I was 7 years old when it came out. My parents took me out of school, so I would have been in second grade, to this huge ornate theater in downtown Detroit, and which was weird because we're from Cleveland. No, the first album I ever bought was the soundtrack to Lawrence of Arabia, and I wanted my kids to have that experience. I mean, I'd been talking to them. You've got to see Lawrence of Arabia, but yes, it's a great character study, but you have to see this on the big screen. And I was so excited. They actually gave me it was a gift to me for Father's Day that they let me take them to see Lawrence of Arabia. And it was so exciting. And that place was packed. And I loved it.
And who makes a breathtaking shot like that takes a lot of patience and time, when the writer comes across the mirage of the desert.
And the will-o'-the-wisp,
It's an incredible shot. But, I mean, really nothing's happening but a black dot's getting bigger and bigger. But, I mean, the way it's shot is just breathtaking. You feel like you're actually there. You can actually feel the heat. You can actually feel everything.
Especially in the front row, you get sand in it.
Yeah, you feel like it.
Wait, that's when you go see Step Up 3D with the sand infused.
But sometimes it's a little disappointing. You get a reaction like you're saying that people are laughing at Step Up too. I taught some film courses several years ago when I was in Chicago, and one of my favorite movies is The Searchers, and I showed it to a class, and they said it was really corny, and I'm in tears at the last scene, and I can't believe it. But this is like 20 years ago, so maybe they're more sophisticated now. But a lot of the stuff I think that we thought was terrific, I think some contemporary audiences might. I mean, since the ideas have been used over and over again, since the emotions in a lot of cases are broader and more open, they see it as corny. But
well, I gotta say, as a young man growing up, when I watched movies on TV, it seemed to always be John Wayne movies, and I actually would turn them off immediately. And I never really thought I would ever get into movies and most of them were westerns. And until I went to college and I took a movie class, and I had to see Yo Jimbo, which then made me go back and watch all the Sergio Leone movies and realize that the western was, even if John Ford was directing, it could be a complicated thing, such as Liberty Valance and My Darling Clementine. So I think there is some of those things where a lot of people, when you put it on studio and it looks set on a studio stage and the moralistic issues are very black and white, kind of like what you were talking about with Metropolis, it's very sort of in the thing. I think it's in a modern society where we're moving a little bit faster and people are more complex, it's a little harder to tap into. But there are movies made all the time in time that you can touch and just say, wow, that movie is really complex. Those characters resonate wherever. I mean, I love The Wild Bunch. I love Sam Peckinpah movies because he loves to go into that really gritty gray area. And I think of The Wild Bunch as a movie I put on for anybody that laughs at. I'll take out my gun and shoot them.
They're remaking Straw Dogs.
I heard that. I'm really disappointed.
What about Straw Dogs?
They're remaking it.
They are?
It's going to be a disaster.
Well, who's making it? David Fincher?
I don't remember.
David Fincher's remaking Heavy Metal, the 1981 animated.
Oh, really?
As a live action?
No, I think he's going to animated again.
I mean, I think a lot of what you were saying about The Searchers or all these things that we're talking about, it involves context. And, one of the pleasures I get out of teaching film, and I imagine you did as far as showing
Grading
The Searchers.
Papers.
What's that?
Grading papers.
Oh, yeah. But the idea of making them see things in context and understanding, this last shot in The Searchers, where he's framed by the doorway, that's important, or that. Whereas because they've seen it before, I'll show Maltese Falcon or something like that. I go, okay, you've seen these detective things all the time, but where do you think it came from? And I think students and younger people are when they get it like that, hopefully they do sort of take a little more time and they'll spend time with Vertigo. It seems long, the long drives and that, but they'll take their time. They'll start looking at movies in a different way. Start to consider context. become more patient and think more, watch movies in a different way almost.
But Bogey's retro cool, whereas John Wayne's kind of a bit of a harder sell.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, and I think one of the things, if you look at this, and I'm trying to remember what the score is like, also a lot of times I think how the music is that sweet maudlin violin that they use a lot, I think really would rip current audiences more out of it, whereas I mean, I'll go back to the Wild Bunch. They use, like Jerry Fielding uses a lot of snare drum and military sort of oriented music, which is timeless because you still use that music in the military today.
I think we're all forgetting a problem that Hollywood is trying to shovel down our throats with this whole 3D eye-popping thing that's happening in every other movie these days, so they can charge an extra $3 for the darn glasses.
Oh, is that what it is?
And sometimes the
Part of it,
sometimes
of course, $3 every time you go in.
doesn't even work.
Doesn't even work at all.
Brett
Because they've added
Michelle,
it on.
who is one of our colleagues at the Phoenix, went to a 3D movie the other day, and it was just like completely blurred. And he went to the projectionist or the manager and said, you know, this is the 3D's not working here. And he said, I know. What am I going to do about it? Nobody else complained though. People just go in and they pay their extra $3 and they see a film and they think because it's blurry and out of focus that it's 3D.
Wow, man.
Yeah.
So, well, did you see Step Up 3D?
No, I
So I saw Stepped Up 3D, and there were some effects in there where the people's hands came out of the screen or their heads and stuff that were mind-blowing. But most of the dance numbers, which are moving quick anyways, you felt like you needed Dramamine or that you had the shakes or something because the 3D, however they filmed it or if they adapted it, didn't quite work for the whole movie.
Favorite 3D moment? Anybody have one? What came out of the screen that really made
It's nothing that came out of the screen for me. Let's go back to Avatar for a minute. The reason Avatar worked for me in 3D was because we got the gigantic depth where the screen almost fell back 50 feet when you were looking at this thing.
So
You're
it's sort of like Buster
great depth
Keaton
of
and
field.
Sherlock Jr. walking into the screen.
Well, I wasn't going to think of that, but yes, that way of using 3D. I don't like the way they use
Or trash humpers.
I don't like the ping pong paddle balls coming at you.
Did you see
Oh
that
my
film?
God.
I said this is punishment for working over 20 years as watching movies for a living. That every 20 years you have to see Trash Humpers or something like that. It's just like,
Actually,
you
I
have to
did
watch it
see
to the
that
end.
movie. In the audience was the director, Harmony Korine, and he had a Q&A and started yelling at people who didn't like the movie. It was an awful movie. Did it ever get released?
Didn't I would think they
I
would
saw
yell
it
at him.
like you, Eddie Film Festival. No, we don't need to see that. But
It did come out for a couple of
point,
weeks, yeah.
though, are people going to have the patience that we were just, younger people, will they have the patience to go back and see these older masterpieces that we were just talking about, or are they going to be spoiled by these 3D things that are getting shoved down their throats? That bothers me, because I wanted people to see some great films.
Yeah.
Well, the 3D does the work for you because you used to use your imagination to go into these worlds. And
It's a pity, isn't it?
Now you get these glasses and this process to put you in this position. So you're sort of like this potato watching. Being drawn into this experience.
Well, if we're going to go that way, I mean, seriously, if you think about it, we're going to get more 3D concert films. Maybe we'll get 3D reality shows on the TV because
60 3D movies in the works.
Because really, I mean, if you want to talk what makes a great movie, I mean, it's character and plot. And sort of people going through adversity or learning something or changing. I mean, these are basic elements in a good novel too. And so if you just want to put 3D out there and have things pop off the screen, why not just go on a
Trash Humpers 3D.
That should be the title of this discussion, huh?
with the soup kitchen experience
Get Harmony
thrown in.
Korine on the phone. I got a screenplay for him.
One of the more memorable, though not in a good way, 3D experiences I had was going to see Andy Warhol's Frankenstein in 3D.
Oh,
And
my.
There were some pretty grotesque images that I haven't been able to wipe from the brain.
What happened to Odorama?
Oh, yeah.
John Waters' Odorama, you give the card and they'd have a number come up and you'd
Wasn't that
scratch.
polyester? Or,
yeah,
I think it's polyester, right.
Yeah.
It didn't catch on. I don't know.
No, it went away.
I think it was number 2 when you scratched number 2.
That's right.
It is number 2.
That's right.
One of the Friday the 13th, and it might have been the third one, was done in 3D.
Yeah.
And there's a few things where projectiles did sort of meaningfully come off the screen, as they did in the Valentine's Day Massacre, the remake of it. They did in 3D. And there's a few things where the pickaxe sort of swings out of the screen.
Dial M for Murder. Remember the scene where the guy
yeah.
stabbed in the back with a scissors,
3D,
and then he
yep.
goes back, and the scissors go further in, and it's all like
okay.
comes out of the screen.
Yeah, I remember.
That's
Doesn't Grace
great
Kelly,
moment.
when she's going backwards on the table, doesn't that sort of jump out at you,
Yeah.
too, I think? Yeah.
There are definitely moments.
I heard they're going to remake the Michael Douglas and Gwyneth Paltrow version of that again with in 3D. That was a joke.
Thank you.
And we're all like,
We're not going to talk about the death of film criticism?
Do we have time? All right. Well, let's get into that a little bit.
I think this is the final nail in the coffin right here. Yeah.
Let's get into that a little bit. The death of film criticism in our